So we have a trade war truce, at least in the short term. And for now, we have a little bit of political breathing room between the United States and China after this handshake deal was struck between the two leaders. But let's get some analysis now. Let's speak to Frank Lavin. He is the former U.S. ambassador to Singapore and chairman and CEO Export Now, and he joins us here in Hong Kong. Thank you for joining us. And as you heard just then, Donald Trump, he's upbeat. The markets apparently liking the outcome of the Xi-Trump meeting. But was anything more than a ceasefire achieved in Buenos Aires?
There was no real substantive gains out of that dinner, Kristie. However, it is reassuring that the two leaders do have open communication. There appears to be a reasonable chemistry, reasonable professionalism. President Trump did go out of his way to praise President Xi. There were no cheap shots. There's no denigration. So at least it projects an image of a functional relationship, although, as you point out, all of the work lies in front of them. So that's a big, big question mark.
Yeah, but as you point out, the G20 meeting, it was much better than expected. But on Twitter, well, after the meeting and after the headlines went out there, U.S. President Trump said something interesting. He said Beijing will reduce and remove the 40% tariffs it places on U.S. cars. There's since been no comment from China on that. So how do you interpret that unilateral announcement by Trump?
Yeah, and it's hard to tell. Sometimes people use imprecise language. So let's try to give the President Trump the benefit of the doubt here. But okay, we should note that China's auto tariffs have been 25%, and President Xi had already announced this year that he would be reducing it to 15% by the end of the year. So that is the tariffs. Now, there could be other taxes, there could be VAT, there could be other elements that take it up to an effective 40% rate or something near that. But the tariffs themselves were never 40, and they'd already been announced they're going from 25 to 15. And by the way, that's a global policy. That's not a courtesy to the U.S. or something to throw Washington, but that's President Xi himself saying we've got too high tariffs and let's just take them down unilaterally. So I think there is good news in the autos. I don't know what he might be referring to beyond what I just articulated.
And Frank, we have a new Trump tweet. He is already up tweeting 6 minutes ago. He filed this one. He posted, quote, and we'll bring it up full screen for our audiences as well as for you. Farmers, oh goodness, this is a new one. No, this is my meeting in Argentina. Sorry. In Argentina with President Xi of China was an extraordinary one. Relations with China have taken a big leap forward. Very good things will happen. We're dealing from great strength, but China likewise has much to gain if and when a deal is completed. Level the field. Okay, he also filed an additional tweet. He posted something else on top of that. But let's talk about this tweet just then. You know, again, the outcome of this meeting, better than expected, yet the trade war remains. A lot of additional ground needs to be covered. You know, can there be a resolution in sight here?
Well, and there's a little bit of a risk or potential risk by premature celebrations. And we saw this, I think, with the Trump-Kim meeting vis-a-vis Korea when President Trump said, look, this is all solved. Well, it hasn't been solved. So be careful, because the risk is the other party views they're taken off the hook. They no longer have to perform. If one side is already declaring victory and success and it was a huge win, then the other fellows say, well, then I guess we don't have to do anything more. What we ought to be saying, I think, what I'd advise any U.S. president to say is, look, this was a promising initial discussion, but there's a lot of work in front of us, is a more prudent way, I think, of framing the issue. But President Trump's just, by his own inclination, his own personality, he enjoys the sort of grandiosity of rhetoric, and that's where we are.
That's right. Additional rhetoric on his Twitter feed. You could check it out afterwards. But Frank, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thanks,
We'll talk
Kristie.
again soon.